Good evening, everyone. I'm Oshadi Kelly, Vice President of Development and Events at Brooklyn.org, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to the Center for Fiction. Brooklyn.org is a partner and platform for local giving and a champion for our communities and the nonprofits we rely on, like the amazing Center for Fiction. Another plug. We are honored to be co-presenting tonight's program with this vital cultural institution that has enriched our city's literacy landscape since 1821 and continues to provide a space for conversations that enriches audiences and storytellers alike. Brooklyn.org's mission is more important than ever in this challenging moment. When national solutions feel distant, local actions become our most powerful tool for change. That's why we have launched our Brooklyn Backs Brooklyn campaign to increase our collective support to local communities and as we grapple with the loss of federal funding and the breakdown of our social safety net. Our neighbors and our vital cultural institutions need us to act. We invite you to be part of the solution and learn more about our work at brooklyn.org. You can follow us on Instagram, it's BKLYN.org, and sign up for our newsletter at Brooklyn.org. I'm astray from the script. We have a really excellent newsletter with so many resources. When I was a civilian, not in this role, I loved getting them, so I'm just plug. Okay. It's now my pleasure to introduce the amazing people who are the reason we're here tonight, author Oliver Jeffers and Sophie Blackall, and I will turn it back to Lyda. Thank you, everybody.
You know, so this is a really fun and interesting and different event for us, hosting two incredible artists, illustrators, and authors this evening. Award-winning author Oliver Jeffers is here to celebrate the release of his new book, I'm Very Busy, the Nearly Forgotten Birthday Book. Jeffers' work has received international acclaim and acclaim much closer to home, right in my own home, in fact, just to name a few personal family favorites, from The Day the Crayons Quit to The Heart in the Bottle and Lost and Found. We are so lucky to have Oliver Jeffers here tonight, and he will be joined in conversation by best-selling author and two-time Caldecott medalist Sophie Blackall. Come on stage.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. I think we're going to start off with a little story. Can I read you a story, Sophie?
I would love to.
Okay, you're never too old for a picture book. So this is I'm Very Busy. It's a true story. By me. It was a lovely day, Bridget thought. A lovely day to spend with friends. Bridget wondered if Royal had any plans for later. Oh, I'm very busy later, Royal replied. I have people to see and places to be. That was too bad. Bridget wondered if Rodney was free that afternoon. I'm very sorry, I'm too busy. I have to see a man about a dog. Ah, well. Regis was very busy too. He was washing his hair. Penelope wasn't free either. She was up to her eyes. This hole won't dig itself, you know. It seemed as though everyone was very busy today. Even Pearl, who had a list of things to write and then cross off. Well, everyone was busy except for Bridget. I guess I'll just have to blow out my birthday candles alone, she thought out loud. Was she the only one who had forgotten Bridget's birthday, wondered Pearl. She asked Rodney. Of course I remembered. I was just going to get her a card. Did you know it was Bridget's birthday? Rodney asked Royal. Ooh, yeah, I did. I was going to make a cake. Ha, obviously, Regis responded when Royal asked him if he knew. Why do you think I was getting ready? For the party, of course. There's a party, right? Regis asked Penelope if she'd forgotten. Oh, I mean, no. I just think I left my packet of balloons at the bottom of this hole I just dug. And even though everyone was busy with last-minute plans, as it turned out, Bridget was right. It was a lovely day to spend with friends, after all. Friends who would never forget a birthday, no matter how busy they were. The end. So it was fun being asked to read your books. I had to, when people have asked me to read The Crayons, kids are always like, my daddy does it better. He does more voices.
This book came out today. Congratulations.
Today, yes.
Yay.
Thank you. So today is Bridget's birthday.
Is this the first time you have read it aloud?
I had to read it aloud for the publishers earlier today on camera, but it's the first time I've read it to an audience. I tried to read it to my kids, but they had no interest. So.
We might talk more about this. It is lovely to be here. It is lovely to see you all. Thank you to the Center for Fiction for having us, and to brooklyn.org, who supported everything and sound incredibly wonderful, and I'm going to sign up for their newsletter. Oliver is very busy. Very busy. So I took it upon myself to come up with a list of topics that we might talk about, because he was too busy to come up with the list. But we're going to talk about all sorts of things, and we're hoping that you might, I've got a bulldog clip here somewhere in my pocket.
Here, I'll help you.
No, here we go. That you might have some thoughts about some of these as well. There we go. Look, team.
Yeah.
All right, can you see these?
And then I guess we will cross them off.
We'll cross them off as we go.
There we go.
Oh, it's a disaster waiting to happen.
Yeah.
But look at us, we're very
wait.
professional.
You can do the honors?
Oh, thank you. We're already, we could do the fraction and see how far we are. I did a talk with Kate DiCamillo 2 days ago, and I had a list of words. We had 20 words together, and she said, I bet we'll get through 2. So we'll see if we can do better than 2.
Yeah. Or, I mean, we're not leaving until we get it all done, just so you know.
You know, one of the things that I didn't put on here actually was book, which is the reason that that we're here after all. Would you like to talk about this book that you just read? I'm not going to cross it off.
Oh, this book?
It's there. Yeah.
Okay, not just any book. Yeah, well, yes, this book is it's ostensibly a book about birthdays and forgetting somebody's birthday. But it's also it's a book about how it is that we choose to spend our time. In a world where everything seems to be accelerating, and the more you get done, it seems the more that you need to do. I think, who was it said, what do you call your man who wrote Alice in Wonderland? Blanket.
Lewis Carroll.
Lewis Carroll said, the hurrier I go, the behinder I get. And I think it's a modern phenomena of today, just, with instant access to information, instant responses, instant everything. I don't think people have ever felt more busy.
Yeah.
And oftentimes it's for what? What are we forfeiting in exchange for this perpetual accomplishment?
Right. Because Bridget's friends' claims to busyness are not
They're not very
terribly serious.
They're not convincing reasons. And I did think of things that, excuses that people generally give, like, oh, I can't do that, I gotta wash my hair. But also, digging a hole is an important thing to do, as is to seeing a man about a dog. Is that term used here? Because it's what we used it in Northern Ireland all the time. It's like, where's your dad going? I was like, oh, he's away to see a man about a dog.
Which means he's at the pub, right?
But I think he generally means, he's
at the
like
pub.
he's doing something important.
So wait, is it Rodney who's at the?
Yes.
So Rodney's at the pub.
Yes.
Okay, just so we're clear. I think we should ask somebody to choose one of these things off the list.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah. All right. Yes, right here in the front. Or you can just call it out.
Call one out.
Book.
Oh, I think we just did that actually.
Yeah, we did
Do you
actually, so
wanna
we gotta cross it off,
so we
yeah.
can just do that.
Yeah. Art. Okay.
Oh, art.
Yeah. So this is a great one because, Sophie, both of you and I are accused of being many things, and often that's an author, often that's an artist, often that's an illustrator. But do you know, actually, let's do a quick litmus test. How many people in here are here just because they're, not just, but because they're interested in books primarily, versus how many people here are aspiring to be bookmakers, say? So let's say bookmakers, either actually making books or want to make books. Who is here just because they love books? Okay. Who is here because they're interested in the theme of, I suppose, juggling many tasks while being a parent? Okay. So I think it's yeah.
I think so. And is anyone here because they can't find the door? Because just, this is your chance. Okay. So that's a nice spattering. All right. Now we know. Okay. Art.
So yes, art. I would think of myself first and foremost as an artist before anything else. Well, to a degree, because I think a lot of what I do well is observing the world and translating it. But it's art is how I got there. And the practice of making art, I think, is something, once I knew that was a viable career option, was something that I knew I wanted to spend the rest of my life doing. And there's various types of people who are interested in art. There's people who enjoy looking at art. There's people who enjoy looking at people looking at art. And then there's people who enjoy making art. And you can always tell an artist in a museum because of the people with their hands behind their back looking at the sides of paintings. They're trying to see how it was made.
How it was.
Yeah.
How do you find time to conjure up a project that you don't know where it's going? It is not for a brief. It is not something that somebody has commissioned you to do. It is something that is started to shimmer in your peripheral vision.
Yeah.
And how do you prioritize that? How do you?
I think we're ticking off a couple of boxes here, but that's only way we're going to get through it.
Yeah.
I have done some talking about in art colleges about the difference between art and illustration. And illustration, I think, can often be sort of deemed as, decorating somebody else's thing, whether that's an ad campaign or whether it's an editorial article or whether it's somebody else's book. It's not nearly as simple as that. In fact, there's the difference between art and illustration is often just down to the order in which things happen. So I've come up with a checklist for the difference between art and illustration. And so illustration is putting out somebody else's fire often. And art is lighting your own fire and then trying to put it out. And in illustration, it is often agreeing a fee before you start making anything. And in art is making it and then trying to figure out how you're going to make money.
Right.
And in illustration, generally somebody else will give you the okay. Whereas in art, you will forever marinate in existential self-doubt. But how do I choose which one is which? I think it's an important question, and I would ask you the same. But for me, there's projects that I know that I want to do, that I want to help somebody else out in, that I think will help pay the bills, will help sort of remain some sort of consistency in the studio time. But the older I get and the more that I think about the world, the more and more it's like, I have a burning desire to say this thing or to make something about this. And at the very beginning, it was a matter of protecting the time, really having to protect like a little tiny pocket of time so I could do that. But the better I've got at doing that, it's like that's almost all I'm doing now. So I think for me, it's almost, I have only really ever illustrated somebody else's book twice.
Right.
And I gave up commercial illustration for editorial about 15 years ago. And because it was that editorial and wasn't so bad, but advertising illustration, it was filled with people trying to justify their own jobs. And it just got very frustrating. But I am not opposed to being open to collaboration. But for me, it's all about what is it that I want to say? What is it that I will enjoy doing? And then it's a part of it's like, what does the world need? And what can I be paid for?
Right. I mean, that is a whole other conversation, right? How we measure the worth of something. And we touched on, I think, like 3 of our other things on the list.
Yeah. How do I prioritize? That's a great question. And I think it is a matter of I don't know about how you handle your calendar, but I'm already sort of blocking out time 2 years down the line because everything I do takes months to do, and so I have to know what the broad strokes are of next year, and the priority is often what I back myself into a corner with, what I promised other people, but what will make me feel very frustrated if I don't get it done.
Right. I mean, that thing of booking so far ahead, and I'm loath to do that, and I do it all the time, partly because we need to know where the rent's coming from or the mortgage payments, and so we need to, those of us who live in this precarious world where we don't know what we're doing and we don't know what's coming in and how anything is going to land in the current climate, we need to have some sense of security, and so we book things far ahead.
Yeah.
And we have books under contract for years ahead.
Yeah.
But sometimes I worry that this is a little bit like ordering a sandwich off a menu 5 years in advance, and you don't know if you're going to want the tuna salad.
Yeah.
And really, it's hard to know that you're going to feel as excited as you do right now placing that sandwich order. How do you approach that? How do you know when to say yes, when to add things onto that long, far-off list?
Well, for me, it's mostly, I generally say no to absolutely everything. And it's then if somebody comes back 3 or 4 times, it's like, okay, maybe this is worth that. But I'm in the very fortunate position of being able to do that. But it's because I suppose I have 1 foot in the publishing industry, 1 foot in the fine art industry, 1 foot in the climate. I've only got 2 feet, but it's, you know what I mean.
Do Twister.
One hand in the I guess like large scale public art projects, and then also public speaking. And so it's a matter of what ticks these boxes of how can I shift the needle on public discourse is often one of the big priorities for whether I will take something on. It's like, will this further the messages I'm trying to say? Will this further the reach potentially? Will this pay for me to buy time to do things that won't pay any money? And so it's a bit of a hierarchy of a list that I've figured out.
Right. But if you're thinking about responding in a way with your work to something that is happening right now that you might be able to make a difference about, does that then mean that you need to leave some space open so that you can
or you just work extra hard that week? And that tends to be what happens, and I try not to do that. But I would say you try to use my Instagram platform well enough for that, where it's like I don't need somebody else to come to me and give me an opportunity to say things. I'll try and do it myself.
Right.
But yes,
which you do beautifully.
Well, I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah.
And so it's the time management, I think, is one of the things that I struggle with the most, because it is leaving time to play.
Right. You wear a watch.
I do.
Do you look at it often?
No, do you know what? I've actually started wearing this watch called the Slow Watch.
Oh.
And it is, there's 24 numbers on it, and there's only one hand, so you know vaguely what time it is. So it's like when it's pointed down, that's dinner time, and when it's pointed straight to the left, that's breakfast time, and when it's pointed straight to the right or a bit above, that's bedtime, and then everything else is sort of in between there. So
that's making my head spin. Do you know that story about, I'm convinced this is a story about Mark Twain, but I have never found any evidence, but I'm sticking with it, that Mark Twain was given a watch, and then he went to sea, and he was sailing from New York to London, and as they went east, he kept checking his watch against the captain's clock, and it kept gaining and gaining and gaining, and he just thought it was the stupidest watch in the world, and he threw it into the sea because he didn't realize that they were crossing time zones. Yeah. Silly old Mark Twain.
Yeah.
I know. It might not have even been Mark Twain.
When we took a year off to travel, we crossed the Atlantic by ship, and there was no noon. It went from 11:59 to 1 p.m. every day. So you didn't get jet lag. You arrived whenever you got there. So they skipped an hour every day, and over the course of time, it was like, you just sort of gently acclimatize.
Yeah.
That was kind of really cool.
Oh, we sailed across the date line last February.
So you went back in time?
We just lost a day completely.
Oh, you went forward in time?
And again, Mark Twain sailed and was in 2 hemispheres and 2 different days at the same time and 2 different years, he claims. He's full of lies, Mark Twain. It was New Year's Eve, and it was, I think it was the turn of the century as well. Is this possible? Don't fact check me. But a baby was born at this, just to add on to his list of claims. And he said, this poor child basically doesn't exist. And will just grow up not having any, certainty of any kind about anything. They'll just be so indecisive for the rest of their life because they were born.
But I was saying this to somebody earlier on in an interview, is that too often we try to get the world to bend to the measuring sticks that we've come up with to measure the world, and they don't clearly fit an awful lot of time. But rather than change our measuring sticks, we try to change the world. But on that note, did you know that the French tried to decimalize the calendar at one point?
Those French.
So there was going to be 2 periods of 10 hours a day, so 20 hours in a day, and twice, then 10 days in a week, and 10 months a year. And because, the one thing that you have to stick with is that there's 365 days in a year, because that's the sun. You can't get around
right.
that. But how you carve that up is completely made up.
Yeah.
And so I think they began this, and it lasted 2 weeks, and it was complete carnage. But whether that was 2 of the old weeks or 2 of the new decimalized weeks, I don't know.
Not to go off on too big of a tangent, but you and I come from decimal countries.
We do.
Unlike all of you, who are, what is it?
I have walked in on our friend Mac trying to, and he was like, it's like he's trying to order or add 3 and 16
sixteenths of a furlong. It's all about chains and furlongs.
Though somebody did point out why the imperial system of measurement does exist. It's because you cannot divide 10 into 2, 3, and 4, and it was for beans and marketplaces. So it's just like, this is the unit by which we'll...
Yes.
Anyway. Back to books.
But the beauty of an A4 piece of paper, which can be folded in half or doubled.
Do Americans use A4?
No, they don't.
It's letter form?
Yes, it's letters, and it's all just little bits left over of bits of inches all over the place. They're forever leaving.
Right,
bits of inches. Okay, we can I think we can cross off. Well, we can sort of cross off quite a few things, really.
Cross off time and priorities. All right, who wants to pick something else? Somebody just shout one out. So.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, your hands up.
Go for it.
Cake.
Oh, no, you can't talk about cake. No, sorry. Choose another one. I don't like cake, not at all. Don't like cake, can't talk about cake. Anything else? Yes, no, there are lots of other choices. Find another one. Studio.
Okay, yes, studio. Studios are very important, and I just recently expanded and renovated in my studio, and I was looking around for a good book on how artists use their studios. And there isn't one. There's lots of books of artists in their studios, but they're, like pretty photographs, and it's more about the artist. It was like, wait, no, where do you keep your paper? Like, how do you arrange your brushes? And there are many, many cool art studios, and you've got the fortune of having a studio in New York, but also up in Milkwood, and we can sort of traverse 2 different topics here. And I think it's that idea of, there's a lot of times I can't make anything until I feel like I'm in the right place.
Right.
And I've got the right things at hand. And artists, when they're like looking at other art, when they're in other artist studios, it's constantly taking a note of like, how do you store things? Where do you arrange things? What's your system? Where's the light coming from? But a big part of the studio life in New York is also community, I think.
Yeah.
And you have studio mates.
I do, yes. I share a studio in the Gowanus with 5 other picture book makers, Brian Floker and Dasha Tolstakova and Robert Watkins and Doug Salati and Johnny Marciano. And we've been together for about 15 years in some form or another. And we didn't really realize until we'd been together for a couple of years how rare that was, that so many people working as children's book writers or illustrators do work in
so there's no walls
isolation.
between you, you're all in the same space.
We're all in the same space.
Yeah.
You can hear
Do you
people
never
chewing.
get like the don't look at me? I'm either self-conscious or don't copy me.
No, it's kind of the opposite. We have become incredibly dependent is probably too strong, but maybe not, on each other for feedback, for counsel, for advice, for if we're stuck, for I've just done this thing, have you seen this anywhere before? Because that's something that I feel like I live in fear of repeating myself or of doing something that I've seen and absorbed and I'm regurgitating and it's close to something else. So no, it's incredibly supportive and wonderful, and there's never been a single incidence of, oh, I'm worried about someone seeing. It's the opposite.
Or just like I'm doing this and it might not be very good. Because I work in a shared building as well, but there's walls between us. And it's not all the same discipline. So there's sculptors and photographers, woodworkers and metalworkers. But I've often found going to somebody from a different discipline to ask them advice on something outside of their discipline leads to some really interesting feedback.
Oh, yeah.
That sense of community, I think, is really, really important, because nobody makes anything in a bubble.
Right. Have you read Sally Mann?
No.
Do you know Sally Mann, the photographer? She has a wonderful book called Hold Still, which is about the creative process, and she's talking about photography, but it could be writing, it could be anything, and it's that same idea of having a different discipline see your work and respond to it. And do you find that you do different kinds of work in different places? Like, is there a place where you find you write more easily?
Yes, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I find that I write more easily when I'm traveling or on an airplane.
Same.
And because there's no distractions whatsoever.
Yeah.
Although, these days you have internet on planes and combine that with wine and at 30,000 feet, you're like, some childhood friend was like, I haven't seen you in years, or like, text my brother was like, I love you. But so I stopped drinking wine on planes and stopped turning on the internet, and I was like, I just think. And it's when ideas come. Actually, when the most annoying thing is? When I'm driving long distance, that's when I come up with really good ideas, but I can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
So I just have to remember it, and then I remember about half of it.
That's how I wrote the manuscript for a picture book I did called Farmhouse, which I could not find my way into. And I'd been working on it for about 3 years, and my editor was starting to get just a little antsy. She'd protected me from production for as long as she possibly could, and then she was like, we need this book. And I was driving down to Virginia Children's Book Festival. It was a 7-hour drive. Our car started making a terrible noise, and I called the mechanic. He said, if you get here by 5 o'clock, I will see you. But I couldn't stop because I might break down, and I got the first line of the book, which I had been years trying to get. I was almost about to give back the advance. I thought, I can't do this book, and I got it.
Wow.
And the only way I could do it was to repeat it over and over, and then I got the second line and the third, and 5 hours later I arrived, threw the mechanic the keys, spoke the whole thing into my phone, and it's one long sentence, and that was it. Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah. So
and it's like a long time of
cogitation.
And that's a really important part of the creative process is thinking, because it looks like you're not doing anything, but you're thinking. And,
right. And I think that about kids today, that they. And this is a great generalization, obviously, and I don't know about your kids, they don't have much time to be bored. Yeah. And it worries me a lot that I think boredom is just the key to so much creative imaginary play and development of all kinds of ideas that you wouldn't get to unless you were bored out of it.
Exactly. It's like there is this mindset, and we're trying to get our children out of that, but it's like, entertain me. And it's like, no, it's not my job to engineer. The word bored was banned in our house growing up. And I was like, look at you. Now,
Like,
I'll give you a job if you want. But
Same. Oh, God, same.
like, or go be bored. I was like, oh, go be bored.
Yeah.
But that just the thinking time is so important, just like marinating, and that's how. There's only 2 books that I've ever come up with that sort of came out in one go, but there was something there, but not even a sentence, not even there was a feeling. And I suppose I'd just been subconsciously marinating in it. And then one time at an airport, just making absent-minded drawing, having been thinking about this other art project, was like, oh. And it was somebody throwing a book in the air and catching it and eating it. And I'd been working with this quantum physicist about this quest for ultimate intelligence. It was like, and then the book was written in one go. And the only other time that happened was I had sort of been a bit worried that I owed a book and I didn't know what it was going to be. And it was like, all the 4 or 5 previous books have been all ideas that I had like way back then, and I've just been going through them. It's like, is this it? Am I out of ideas? And I was in Northern Ireland and I borrowed my dad's car to just go for a drive, and I didn't know that I forgot my phone by accident, and I didn't know his radio didn't work, so it was just me and silence. I'm driving up the Northern Irish coast, and I pulled in by this sort of rocky, beachy cliff overlooking the sea, and there was a storm coming in, and I just sort of remember drifting off and woke up, and I just got out a notepad and pen and I wrote the Fate of Fausto in one single go. I was like, I don't know where it came from. But it was like, there had been this notion of man's relationship with our natural world that had just been bubbling in there, and it just needed something. And so, the idea of marination and boredom is extremely important for I think for the creative person, but for anybody. For play.
How do you, some crossing off, some housekeeping here. We did studio too.
What else we've done? Writing, I guess. Did we do writing?
Well, close enough. Look
Okay.
at us. Look how productive we are.
Oh, we did community.
Well,
all right,
I think we could do some more. Oh, see under community? Yeah, that's a packet of bums. I don't know if you saw that.
What is a packet of bums?
That was to see if you were paying attention.
I was not paying attention, so we'll cross that off.
I had a friend in Australia many, many years ago who, as a kid, would always add packet of bums to his mum's shopping list, which was just, and a packet of bums, which doesn't, it doesn't really exist, but he lived in hope anyway.
We now know that Sophie doesn't like cake.
No, you just, you can't cross them all off. It's not fair.
Well, you've already said no to cake.
Well, who knows? I might change my mind.
Okay.
How do you feel about lists? Do you keep lists?
I love lists.
Yeah.
It is the only way that I ever feel a sense of accomplishment is to write lists and then cross things off. And I do this where I will have already completed a task. I'll add it to a list just so I can cross it off. And there was an exhibition I had in Chelsea. It was like a fine art exhibition. It was one of these occasions where the fine art work that I do and the book work that I do really obviously cross lanes, cross pollinates, and it was roughly around the same time that my book There's a Ghost in This House is coming up, and there was a show called Afraid of Ghosts, because that is the collective noun for a group of ghosts. Afraid of ghosts. And there was a sculpture at the front. I was like, I might have to actually do this, but I put a gravestone, and it was called, the piece of art was called The Quintessential To-Do List, and it said live, and that was crossed off, and it said die, and that was crossed off.
Do you all know that what's the actual title?
The art show was called Afraid of Ghosts, and then the book was called There's a Ghost
in This House. We are the happy and fortunate recipients of the house, the ghost house that Oliver
that
made.
was made for the exhibition, and I was like, who has got a big place that I can give this piece of art to? And then I was up at let's go on a side tangent. We're maybe getting back into the community here, but for those of you who don't know, there's a lot of people who talk about the importance of helping other artists and the artistic community, and then there's people who actually do something about it. And so Sophie started this foundation called Milkwood, which is, how would you best explain it?
So with my husband Ed, who is in this room.
We'll do a tangent on Ed in a second.
Oh yeah. We began a creative retreat for the children's book community. It's called Milkwood. It's in upstate New York in an old dairy farm, and we've been running for for about 5 years, 4 seasons, and it is for teachers and librarians and authors and illustrators and publishing people, and it is the most extraordinary thing, way more work than we ever imagined, and way more rewarding than we could have dreamt possible. And
So you built this place, as you said, to allow other people to slow down.
Right, that's the irony. We do all the cooking and all the everything so that other people can have this time.
Yeah.
And it does feel like such a gift. The people who come say variations of, this is the first time I haven't had to take care of somebody else. This is the first time I haven't had to make a decision about what I'm going to eat or what I'm going to, how I'm going to feed my family. I can actually just think about, be bored and think about work.
Yeah.
And we take care of those needs. But they also find community there, and they have the kinds of conversations that we haven't necessarily been able to have a whole lot in the last 5 years or so or more. To be in the same space together, to have the kind of protracted conversation where we can really, really talk to each other, which I think is something you do. You do a lot of.
Well, I do, but not quite like that. But I've been to one of the sessions in Milkwood with other peers in the publishing world, and it afforded me the time. There was supposedly a third Crayons book supposed to be happening, and it was like I can't see it, and how to go about the concept that Drew had, and it was there. It was like, I'm just going to bring all the notes, and I did. I cracked it just because you afforded me the time to just think.
Yeah.
But what I tend to do is I gather people together in my studio, but it would be like across a range of industries. So I bring like a farmer and a scientist and a politician, and generally it's to talk about the state of the world and climate. And it was like, and I use it as reference and research a little bit. It was like, what are the issues that I can maybe bring into my work and talk to people about that you're seeing in farming, that you're seeing in politics, that you're seeing in the scientific community, you're seeing in fashion, and it's really, really insightful. And it's, I try to sort of bring in younger voices and as well as experienced voices, and so it's kind of a different thing, but it helps, and I think it helps me certainly.
Yeah. Do you spend much time with children? Not your own.
Not my own.
Do you do school visits?
I don't really do school visits, and it's. I think I had because I do so many different things. It's difficult. If I was just making kids' books, I think it would be more straightforward.
Yeah.
Because I rarely do book events anymore, and as much as I love doing them and getting out and meeting people, it's like there's so much to do, and now looking after my family and older generations, it just becomes, everything is like a fight for your time.
Right. Do you?
But it's also, I think this is maybe worth mentioning here, is like I've known for a long time, is like it's not that I'm writing children's books, I'm writing picture books, because I think of them as a very simple art form.
Right.
So I think there are artists and authors who are much more tapped into how kids' brains works, and I don't think that I'm one of them. I just sort of learned that if I have the natural sense of humor of a 5-year-old, and if you can say something about the world that a 5-year-old understands, that a 95-year-old understands, like you're onto something.
Yeah. Thinking about, we're coming back to time and priorities and how to use time. Do you know that parable of the person with a jar and stones and sand and grit and water, right?
Yeah.
Do you all know this?
Can we remember the order? Oh, it's if you put the...
Well, if you have a jar and then you have all of these things, you can't, if you put in the sand or the water first, you can no longer fit the big stones. So you have to start with the big stones, then the small stones, then the gravel will fit around it, and the sand, and then the water will fill to the top. So you have to decide what those big stones are in your life, essentially, because you can't put them back afterwards. So,
and there's an old Korean saying, is like you cannot drink from an empty cup, which I've always liked. So you gotta, and it's like even when anybody who's traveled on an airplane, the thing that every flight they say is put on your own mask before you attempt to put on somebody else's.
Right.
So you gotta make sure that you're okay before you can be in a position to give.
Right, and maybe that's a good segue into doing all of these things that you do somehow with your 24-hour watch. You have a lot of time on that watch.
Who needs sleep?
But you do an incredible amount of things, and you're all over the place, and you've got 3 things going on in Brooklyn, and the thing in exhibition in Boston of the dip paintings, the Brooklyn Museum, the new whole Oliver Jeffers wing by the looks of things. You've taken over the museum, so you're doing an awful lot of stuff. Do you have help?
Yes, I do. Okay. I do have help, and I think that's a really important thing to. And I always will try to reference that as much as possible. Like, you know, the studio does this, so it's me and my wife. And she runs all of the business and the contracts, and she hates it. But she was like, she doesn't trust anybody else to do it, so she keeps trying to get me to fire her. And then my older brother Rory, who is a freelance designer, but I've worked with him since before I started. And then I have an assistant in Brooklyn who just works with fine art stuffs and helping the materials, running the studio, keeping that going, and dealing with all of the fine art inquiries and just everything in that world. And then we did have 2 other people in Belfast, but it was all starting to get a bit big, and so they both naturally left, and we just got somebody in part-time to help with some of the basic studio maintenance stuff, some post office things. But, you know, it's easy when everything's going well to keep growing and growing and growing, but then it becomes this thing where you're starting to think about projects just so you can feed the machine, and then that starts to really affect the quality and the integrity of the singularity of direction that you can go.
Right.
But yes, any artist that is doing anything at a fairly large scale, that when they pretend to do it on their own, it really frustrates me. Yeah. Because they don't.
The very first thing I learned about Oliver was the sketchbooks that you did with your brother and Mac Primo and Duke Riley. Yeah. And that was, I was just starting out, and I was seeing this work that you sent them back and forth, right, across the Atlantic.
How this started was Mac, he's a New York artist, and it's actually, this is maybe we can go into the tangent of Ed. So I met Mac in 1990. And the reason I met Mac in 1990 is like, oh, actually, right. So hands up who knows both Sophie and my books. So you would think that we know each other through picture books, but we don't. It's your husband, Ed, whose father was the director of a summer camp who offered a scholarship to 2 kids from Northern Ireland in the late 80s and early 90s that I got to come over. And that's where I met Mac. And years later, he had come over to visit me in Belfast, and I was thinking about applying for this grant from the Arts Council in Belfast, and he was like, wait. The government gives you money to make art? I was like, yeah. And then we learned that not only the government give out grants to make art, which I had no idea that was not something that existed in the USA, but there's also this thing called the British Council, which exports art from projects that are not, financially driven to other countries. And so we did this project it started in Belfast using government money, government subsidies, and then we brought it to New York. But the idea was 4 of us will send this sketchbook back and forth across the Atlantic to each other over a course of months, and sort of in a call and response manner. And then we exhibited in Belfast, we exhibited in New York, and then we published a book of it. And it was, it was
the most extraordinary thing.
Yeah, it was 2001 or 2, I think.
Yeah, it was so beautiful and surprising, and it was just this conversation, this visual conversation, and it made my brain explode. It was very exciting.
Yeah. And when you were saying you were starting out, because you also started out in fine art a little bit, and then sort of segued into books.
This is true. I think we should ask these nice people that they might have some questions.
Okay. Oh, right. Yes.
No, and you don't have to. I mean, this is a fine list. Did you see where I got to? Yeah, you did. Okay. I'm just checking that you could all read here. Yeah. Did you see this down here?
Which one?
There's hiatus.
Yes.
Right, and then there's
technology?
No, there's techology.
Technology?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Then there's spelling, because obviously someone had some trouble. Then there's technology, which you wanted to talk about, but technology is really boring. I don't want to talk about technology. But you might have these people might have some questions for you.
They might,
Do you have questions for
Does anybody have any questions?
Yes.
I have used your books. Sorry, do you mind speaking? Oh, absolutely. Hello. I have used your books in theater classes with kindergartners. And one of the things that I really am curious about in terms of your creative process is as you were burgeoning as a storyteller, as an illustrator, when did you have that aha that this pocket of children's books would kind of deliciously meet your particular humor and your particular worldview?
Is that for you?
That's for you.
I mean, right away, I think, because there's a lot of people sort of always knew that they wanted to write picture books, and I was not one of those people. It sort of not happened by accident, but I fell into it by mistake almost, and so it was there, and it started off because I was making fine art paintings. I went to art college and I studied design and typography and painting, and a lot of the early paintings that I was making sort of focused on the narrative momentum. So you'd either something was about to happen, or you were seeing something in the middle of happening, or then you were seeing the aftermath of it happening. And now I realize that was the beginning and the middle and the end of a story. And one of those painting concepts that I had that I thought was going to be a body of work of paintings was of somebody trying to do something impossible, and that was standing on a star and trying to catch another star. And then it was like, wait, this might be better as a book. And so it just happened really, for me, quite naturally, that I was able to just pour my personality and artistic style into it. The hardest book I ever had to make was the second one, because then it was like the first one sort of happened by accident, and then I had to learn how to actually make a book, and that was difficult. But it was, the style was there, the humor was there, but it was trying to figure out a satisfying ending that was tricky. So we learn as we go. And the publisher did say after, when I handed in my first book idea, it was like, do you have other ideas? And I was like, yeah. And yeah. Yes, who else has questions? Don't be shy. Yeah.
Yes.
Do you listen to music while you work?
The question was, do you listen to music while you work? I don't very much, and I do listen to audiobooks, and sometimes they become deeply ingrained into the thing. I don't know if you all have that experience of it's like a mnemonic device then for that, whatever you were listening to. So I have whole books that I made that I look at and see Moby Dick or Anna Karenina, or it has absolutely nothing to do with it, but those two things are now connected in my brain.
Speaking from the male perspective, we can only do one thing at a time. So I tried listening to like Rosetta Stone to learn a language, and it was like, the first sentence didn't even penetrate even after the 15th time. So I don't know how you listen to books and make
It can only be in the busy coloring painting stage, not in any decision-making stage.
I can't. But I do listen to music, but if it's too annoying, I don't notice it when it's good, but if it's too annoying, if there's too many lyrics, it tends to bug me. So these days I tend to just put on classical radio. Or folk music, instrumental folk music. It's not very exciting. I used to be on top of like all of the new bands and everything, and then much. It's hard to keep up.
No. I tried to listen to the Taylor Swift record. It's not even a record. A record. I just called it a record.
But the vinyl's back.
Yeah, well, this is true. Yeah. This is true. Were there more questions back in there? Oh yes. Hello, you.
Why are there no leaves or branches in the trees you see?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no leaves or branches really in any of the trees, and there's a very good reason for that. They're
It's
very
just
tall.
A stick. It's just a stick, isn't it?
The trees are very, very tall, and through an interesting set of circumstances, I had less time than I thought to make the book. So I was like, how do you make this more efficient? I was like, I've saved myself a week of not drawing leaves or branches.
But yeah, that one's just a pole.
They're all just poles.
But
Yeah, I mean, you look
But
at
these ones have the sense that the potential of branches and leaves up the top. We're just not thinking about that one.
There's maybe one or two, but yeah, some of them are just poles. I like the geometry of the shapes of it.
Did you also notice there are no feet?
Feet are really hard to draw.
It's like no leaves,
and bicycles.
no feet. I think you should get like half your money back on this book. Seriously.
I'll point out the publisher on the way out.
But no, wait. They all kind of come off the top.
Yeah, they do.
But except for that one.
What one?
It's that one up there.
No, this is, look, that's the cutout of the
No, here, look.
Do you know what? Oh,
It's just a stick.
that's a mistake.
Oh, this is going to be worth so much. I take it all back. You know how I said you should get you should get this now as a collector's item, because the next edition, you're not going to see this. This is going to be
Didn't
moved
take
up
into
a little
consideration the
bit.
5 mil blade.
And exactly. That
Thanks,
sad, that sad little stick is going to be corrected. So get your copies now, first edition. Other good questions like that one? Yes.
Which one is your favorite character you've made?
Ooh, which was my favorite character I've ever made? Actually, you know, I think it might be the Penguin from Lost and Found, and he's in a couple other books, and for a very simple reason. He's most people's favorite character, and he
I
doesn't.
like the moose, just saying.
Well, actually, the moose for the same reason. He doesn't do anything. He's just there, and it's usually staring in the wrong direction. And I think people just. It's the same reason why I think people like The Alchemist. It's just like it's a mirror upon which they see their own life. So that's the penguin. But the moose, yeah. I mean, have any of us read This Moose Belongs to Me? It's kind of it was inspired by reading the history of the island of Manhattan and the purchase of the land from the Native Americans by the Dutch, but two totally different systems of ownership. And the Native Americans sort of going, nobody really owns everything or anything, and the Dutch going, taking the money but then not leaving. So it's kind of about that.
I think we have time for a couple more.
Yeah. Also questions for Sophie as well.
Yes.
Was it random that you made it about a birthday, or did you do it like on purpose? Like,
Was it random that I made it about a birthday? Well, I was going to do a wedding anniversary, but I don't think kids would read. So I was asked, have I ever forgotten a birthday? And I was like, no, I haven't forgotten birthdays. I've been, it was like later in the day, I was like, oh yeah, by the way, happy birthday. I mean, sometimes made not a big deal of it. But my wife and I have been married for 15 years, and we remember each other's wedding anniversary at exactly the same time every year, which was when my younger brother texts us both. We're like, oh yeah. But this year he didn't, and so we had to check in. I was like, are you okay, Brian? Have you ever forgotten a birthday?
No, all the time. I forget everything. But my this is a sad story. No, it's a funny sad story. My late ex-husband. His birthday was 2 days before mine. So every year I would make a big fuss for his birthday, and then mine would roll around 2 days later, and he would say, oh, well, that's not really fair, because you had all year to think of my birthday, and I only had 2 days to think of yours. And so he would not do anything. What is that logic? That does not make any sense.
No, for the last 4 years, I've spent my birthday on book tour, so it's been at some hotel in Seattle, table for one. But this year I was in New York and I got to spend it with some friends.
This is so sad, but it might be a good it might be a good segue. Has anyone else got a sad birthday story?
Yes.
Before, I just want to hear.
Sad birthday story.
Yeah, I want to hear a worst birthday. Is this the worst birthday anyone's ever had? Yes, please.
My birthday is a notoriously bad day in history. There's a lot of things like Abraham Lincoln was assassinated, the Titanic sank, fun things like that.
April 12th?
April 15th. But that week is apparently known as the worst week in human history. But when I think it was my 13th birthday, there was a hurricane. My entire town flooded. We all lost power, and FEMA came. That was a fun one.
Wow. A quick aside from that, the Titanic was made in Belfast, and this just sums up the Northern Irish mentality. We celebrated the centenary of its sinking, not the centenary of it being built. Anyway, okay. I think we've got time for one more question?
I think we've got time for one more. I'm just going to do some housekeeping over here.
Yeah.
We did this.
Dot our I's and cross our T's. Yes, sir.
When do you know when an illustration or a drawing is done and you don't need to add more things?
Deadlines are a very useful thing. And even in the fine art world, I will impose deadlines on myself and try to stick by them and then work backwards from that. But if you leave a piece of art around your studio long enough, you'll tinker with it. And I got to make one book in this print workshop in Paris. And it was the same one that like Matisse had used, and Picasso and Cézanne. And the old print master there was telling stories about like they'd used it. And it was like, they would even try to bring brushes into museums to touch up pieces that were already in museums. So it's like, it's never done. You just got to move on to something else at some point.
This is very true. I think we did very well. I crossed out hiatus, even though we didn't talk about it, because I think I can.
Well, let's just stop for a second. Okay.
We did it.
Yeah.
That was it. That's what I figured. That's probably as long as you are ever going to stop. There are these people who take a creative year. They just take a year of rest. They say no to everything, and say no. Wait. They say no to everything, and then they take a year to just fill their cup. And but no, you just did it in that second. Okay, technology. I already said was boring, and we're not allowed to talk about that. Which I think leaves. We
talked about birthdays.
We did sort of talk about birthdays, but you know what we didn't talk about, Oliver, was your birthday, which I believe was
2 days ago.
2 days ago.
Ah!
And we didn't talk about cake because actually I really like cake.
Thank you. No fire in a bookshop.
To you. Happy birthday, dear Oliver. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you, Shanta. I didn't get birthday cake this year because I was with my friends and didn't occur to any of them to get me a cake. So there you go.
Now you have it.
Yeah. Let me hear a while. I'm older than I look and act. Okay, we can cross both of those off.
We can cross them both off.
We got through it.
And we did. I think it's extraordinary. And with saying yes, we just said yes. We said yes to cake. And we said happy birthday. And thank you so much, everybody, for coming and for the Centre for Fiction for having us. And Oliver.
Everybody stick around. We've got cake for you too. We're going to have it right here in the back of the room. And you can get your books personalized and signed. So stick around. Thank you.